Oh, yes, time to rise and grind on a beautiful Friday morning. It is April 19th, 2024. My goodness, what a show. Action-packed show we have for you. So many things going on across the sports landscape. The NBA playoffs will be in full swing by tomorrow because today we have the final play-in tournament games. Fantastic stuff all the way around. Donnie Wright's out here along with Joe Ranieri, and for the next 3 hours, you know we're bringing that heat here. Are you ready for this action-packed 3-hour early line show this morning, Joe?
I cannot wait for the guest list. So I am in and I am ready to go since I'm on the list. So let's go here, man. Let's start it.
We rolled out the red carpet for you people today on a Friday morning, so let's get after it, have some fun. The 7 and 7, the hottest topics across the sports landscape, which included yesterday the Texas Rangers 9, the Detroit Tigers 7. So the Rangers do pick up a victory, but the bigger deal, Jack Leiter makes his Major League Baseball debut. What a great debut, Joe. 3 2/3 innings, 8 hits, 7 earned runs, 3 walks, only 3 Ks in 85 pitches. Now, you could be nervous here, but that's not the start that we wanted for Jack Leiter down for Texas.
It started good enough, right? I mean, I think he opened it up with a strikeout in the first batter, and then everyone was like, whoa, look out. And then, listen, he certainly has the stuff, Donnie. If you watched any of it here, it's he's going to be just fine. And the boy definitely throws some gas. So should be interesting to see his next start, I think, is going to be really telling.
Sit down, settle in. It happens before. We took a look at the kid up there in Baltimore, didn't get a hit for like 20 at-bats. He'll be fine. He'll be okay. He's a top prospect. Let's see how it goes. And also, they got the win. That's the most important thing, certainly, as we know. As we welcome in the radio audience here, you're watching and listening live right now to the early line on a Friday morning edition. It's Joe Ranieri. It's Donnie Rightside, Sirius XM Channel 159, hitting the 7 and 7 topics, which includes more Major League Baseball. The Guardians 5, the Red Sox 4 yesterday. The Guardians improved themselves to 13 and 6 on the season, Joe. But how about this? Away from Progressive Field, 10 and 3 on the road for the Guardians here.
Yeah, no, impressive. And where did they dig up Carlos Carrasco? Like, my goodness, unbelievable effort there yesterday. It's kind of feels like it wasn't that where he was originally, then kind of went to New York and then came back now. And it threw an amazing game yesterday. And now at 13 and 6, sitting the top of the division, opening up some eyes here for this Guardians team as well. They should. A very winnable division for them.
Yeah, by the way, tough little division here now. Boston Red Sox sit 10 and 10, but every team in that division, Joe, has at least 10 wins here. Typically 10 and 10 would get you in second place in a lot of these divisions, maybe even first place for a while, but not in the AL East. Let's move it over to the NHL. Finally, yesterday, the regular season closed. We know exactly the playoff matchups here. One of the most grinding, grueling sports, the NHL, that Stanley Cup playoff run. We're finally here.
Yeah, no, it was very interesting the last couple of days of the regular season trying to bet on the NHL. And that was almost as fun as betting on the NBA in the final last couple of regular season games because there were clearly teams who had something to play for and some that did not. And boy, oh boy, the dogs were barking last night there, Donnie.
Yeah, and always love this about the NHL, too. Like, the paycheck stops. So you play for the love of the game and Lord Stanley's Cup on the way out. And you can grow your beards. You can have some fun. You can see if you can win. And all that matters is, can your goalie stand on his head for a few games here? But away we go in the NHL. Fun times ahead. How about this? You want to make even more money than playing basketball at Kentucky? We'll go pro here. Reed Shepherd enters the NBA draft, leaves Kentucky after one season, a lottery pick. He's on his way to the NBA.
All right. Congrats. I don't get it. I really don't. I mean, these guys, I don't know who told this kid that, you fell apart when they needed you the most, in Kentucky, but somehow the NBA, you're going to roll right in there. I mean, what's the difference? You weren't planning on going to class anyway. You might as well go to the NBA.
Look, I think he realized, Joe, that Kentucky really wasn't a top 3 program. Cal left. So he's like, you know what? I'm not sticking around here at this lower level school. Let me head to the NBA and earn my paycheck here. I got to tell you right now, it's interesting as we look around the college landscape. I'm going to talk about Wisconsin basketball. Had a good year last year, but everybody wants to leave Wisconsin all of a sudden as AJ Storr hit the portal, and now he finds himself in Kansas here. Tough scene for Wisconsin, losing multiple starters here. My goodness.
Yeah, not good there for Wisconsin or Big Ten basketball. But he originally started out in St. John's, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes.
Then he went to Wisconsin, and now all of a sudden he's trying to. Now he's going to try to go to Kansas, and this is the big fear in college hoops, Donnie. Right? A guy goes to a different school every year, and that's kind of with 2 years remaining. If it doesn't work out with Kansas, where's he going, Donnie?
Look, and the thing is, too, it's like I understand you can transfer the NIL. Maybe it's more money out there, and that's certainly a big part of it. But you can't say to yourself, like, okay, AJ Store, yeah, you know what, didn't get the ball enough at Wisconsin. They really weren't showcasing. Right. Like, he was the man there along with Chucky Hepburn, and they're both like, yeah, it was fun at Wisconsin, but let's just see what's out there in a different part here. Now, granted, going from Wisconsin to Kansas, you're probably getting an upgrade there. I understand that. But when you are the man at your school, it's like, yeah, you know what? Maybe I'll go somewhere else at this point. And that's not only the men doing it here. The women's basketball players doing it as well. Haley Van Lith, she'll find her third school here as she enters into the portal and finds TCU as a home. Welcome to the Big 12, Haley Van Lith.
Yeah, and get used to it because this is what's happening. And that's why I don't ultimately think this is going to be great for the women or the men's game, Donnie. The ability not to be able to have a cohesive group for more than a year is just crazy to me because we know this doesn't work. It's just going to affect the product on the court, and I think we're going to see that over the next season or two.
Yeah, changing landscape. It's been around that for a while, but now certainly exacerbated when you have these kids changing schools. You can't fault them here. This is the landscape that you wanted. And if anybody out there is saying to themselves, oh, I don't like this, I can't believe this. If you were a proponent of, I can't believe these kids are not getting paid, this is a direct derivative of getting paid. You're going to be switching schools every year, putting yourself into free agency because maybe you say, my school right now, Joe's paying me $200,000 a year. This school over here is going to pay me $350,000. They're gone. They're on the move, which also includes coming back to the nest here. That's the Cavender twins coming back to Miami for one final season. One was going to retire. One was going to transfer. Now they're both coming back. I got a feeling, Joe, you're close to this situation down there. John Ruiz picked up the phone. Doot, 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 doot. How about some money? Come back to Miami. And here we are.
Yeah, there may have been a boat trip involved somewhere along the line there, Donnie. I may or may not have been invited on that. And yes, there was a deal cut. And just like that, once again, the University of Miami will be on the map. Unfortunately, it won't be for football or their men's basketball team. And we'll have nothing to do with that. But we're going to be talking a lot of Miami, I am sure, in the next year.
Yeah, when's that ROI coming back to life wallet on this? Retweeting some gyms out here and some UFC workouts. Yeah, you can get paid here. And by the way, John Ruiz, if you do watch the show, and Joe Ranieri probably says, you know what, he probably should be watching it. There's no problem with some NIL money thrown our way here at the SportsGrid Network. Come on now, open it up here for us. Well, that is what it is in college basketball, transferring around, trying to make your teams better, make yourself more money in the time being. Let's hit the Major League Baseball card. What happened yesterday? It was a 5-game slate changed into 4 with a rainout. We'll cover that next right here on the Early Line.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York G has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
It's when he swung it easy at 3/4 golf swings, and he pretty much hit his number all the time. Dude, but when he hit something full, he hit it 20 yards over the greens at times. He's like, what are you doing? He's just smiley, happy, and a freakish athlete golf robot that's going to be right there winning majors for the next 10-plus years. It's amazing. Did you say he was smiling or smiley?
Only on SportsGrid.
They're still the best. They're still the champs. Everyone wants to crown the Celtics the champions, but that's not the way it works. They got to beat them. And, they got to get through the East, which isn't going to be fun to begin with. Everyone thinks it's so automatic
If it's just Boris is kind of losing his power, if whatever his tactics have been, yeah, move on.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We talked about the Ohtani story. This interpreter, Ipe, clearly was a problem gambler. I mean, he would be identified as that and beyond. Now, there are a lot of others that are out there.
The timing didn't seem great. It seemed slightly tone deaf in terms of, maybe now isn't the time to say it. But the sentiment itself, you have to agree with. There's only so much a sports betting company can do, right?
Newswire, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
this
late
sort
night.
Of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Hour number one in full swing now, right here on the Early Line, Sirius XM Channel 159 Sports Grid Network. We're going to get to Major League Baseball in just a moment. Do you know what the importance, Joe Ranieri, of today is? Do you have any idea? Like, what would be so important today on April 19, 2024, that many people have been waiting months and months and months for? Do you have an idea?
Would it be, I don't know, spring for you guys? What would it be?
I wish it was. It's still freezing cold up here in the Northeast. So somewhere it's got to be beautiful. Maybe where you're at this point. But did you know it's Tortured Poets Department release day for Taylor Swift? I mean, what a big – why are we not having segments on this today? Instead of breaking down the NBA games, how about breaking down song by song and have a listen in with the people out there? What do you think the ratings would be if we did that here right on Grid?
You know what, Donnie? I'm going to need a minute to digest that fully about what's going on here with that. All right, I'm good. I'm back. I'm ready to go. That is outstanding news. Really is. Thank you.
If we clip that quick segment right there that we just had, just put hashtag like Taylor Swift Sports Grid, it probably would do big time numbers out here, even though we really didn't talk about any of the songs here, but apparently it is a big day. But you know what was a big day for yesterday? Jack Leiter and the Texas Rangers here. A 9-7 victory for the Rangers, which Leiter did not have a great performance yesterday. If you take a look at his stats here, Joe, 3 2/3 innings pitched, 8 runs, 8 hits, 7 earned runs, 3 walks, and 3 strikeouts. Now hear me out on this. It was a couple of those plays weren't really his fault. They did win the baseball game, and it's not like, hey, kid, you just can't pitch. We gave you one chance, and you're going back to the minors. He's a very good prospect here. He will have a fine career. Not the greatest start for him, which you have hoped for, but the Rangers still got the victory, improved to 11-9. The bats bailed them out here, and we're looking forward to what we get next start from Jack Leiter. Wasn't a great day, was a rough start, but the Rangers still won the baseball game.
Yeah, and Bochy said after the game that he was fine. He was, he had a little trouble hitting the spots there in the early innings, but, and that was the second inning, really. Third inning, he got a couple of quick outs there. And listen, the fourth inning, he eventually got into trouble, but he's got the stuff. And that's really all you're looking for at this point, because what's the choice for Texas? Everybody, they have no starting pitching. Everyone is shelved. They've got to try to buy enough time to be able to get the reinforcements back. So this is the only reason this kid's up here is because everyone else is hurt.
And by the way, we talked about Leiter yesterday, 3 2/3 innings pitched, 7 earned runs. But you flip it over, like Kenta Maeda is a veteran out here. He didn't do himself a solid either yesterday. 2 2/3 innings here, 6 runs, 5 of those earned, 2 walks, only 2 Ks. And also, how about this? 3 bombs giving up yesterday. So tough scene all the way around. And what's known, quite frankly, as a pitcher's ballpark, saw 16 runs yesterday on that 4-game slate. Let's whip it around Major League Baseball again. Yesterday, the Guardians, as we talked about to open the show, nice win over the Red Sox, 5-4 here. Carrasco got the victory, 3.44 ERA now as they move to 13-6 in first place in their division, and 10-10 now. The Red Sox dead last place in the AL East, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, impressive stuff here by the Guardians. Not great for the Red Sox, but none of us really thought the Red Sox were I mean, I faded them. I have their win total under here. I don't think they win 80 games. I don't think it's even close. But the Guardians, maybe the most impressive part about what they're doing right now, Donnie, is they're 10-3 on the road. I mean, that was in Fenway. They're not even, usually they've been very good at home, right, in that ballpark. But they're 10-3 on the road. It's not sustainable. We know that. But that's a good sign now of things to come, I think, moving forward.
Yeah, you pop champagne bottles in Major League Baseball when you go on the road and take 2 of 3 from the Oakland Athletics because it's supposed to be much, much harder to win on the road than it is at home. So you're stealing games early on in the season, and it adds that momentum. And also keep in mind, it could build the exact opposite way. You open up the season, let's just say the reverse of that great record on the road. It's like, oh, no, we're going on the road again. We just can't win games. That's great for them. If they can handle their business at home at Progressive Field, could be a pretty good season here for the Cleveland Guardians. But again, a long way to go. Let's take a look at another AL matchup yesterday. The Tampa Bay Rays 2, the LA Angels 1 in this game. As we saw, Pepio, 6 innings pitched, 3 hits, only 1 earned run giving up. Canning wasn't that bad yesterday. 5 1/3 innings, 4 hits, and 2 earned runs. In that game, Mike Trout did not get on base yesterday. Actually, he got a walk, but did not get a base hit. 270 now on the season. But even though you see the Angels here, Joe, sitting at 9-10, much better start than I thought they would actually have, hanging around 500. In Tampa Bay improves to 2 games over 500 now with an 11-9 record.
Yeah, good old Pat had, what do you have? I think he went 6 innings in that game. Yeah, I actually liked Canning in that game. I took the first 5 under. I don't like this Tampa Bay lineup. The Angels, though they have shown some flashes of being mediocre, they're probably less than mediocre when it's all said and done once Trout gets hurt, and we all know that's going to happen at some particular point along the game here. But, yeah, no, I mean, that was a pretty solid start by both guys. Getaway game. We love those spots, Donnie, especially early in the season here. We give ourselves a first 5 under opportunity, and we get out, and that's exactly what we had there yesterday.
Yeah, talking about the Angels, let's take a look at Mike Trout for just a simple moment here. And it seems like a great guy, obviously, always a smile on his face, an unbelievable baseball player. Before the injuries here, maybe on a trajectory to be possibly the best player to ever lace them up. Now, the reason I bring up him being a good guy is he's never going to shake the tree out in Los Angeles. And Major League Baseball for years, Joe, what have they told Mike Trout? We always talk about growing the game. You're the biggest superstar. Can we put you in commercials? Can you show up at press conferences? Like, can we really make you the face of baseball? And he's like, yeah, you know what? I'm good with that. You play in Los Angeles, which is a major city, but you don't play for the Dodgers that gets all the headlines. You play for the Angels. So even in that big environment, you can sort of tuck in there and say, you know what? Staying in my lane, out of the limelight here. The reason I bring this up is Mike Trout being traded. You can't envision this as saying like Mike Trout goes to ownership or Artie Moreno. Hey, look, now's the time. You got to get me out of here. Is it up to the Angels to do it themselves here to get that return? Or else is it just better to say, well, we had Shohei Ohtani. What'd you get for him? Well, we didn't get anything for the guy. You got to get something for Trout. Well, he's worth something, right?
Or you just ride it out, and that's it. And if you're Trout, I think they'll trade Trout when Trout walks in and is like, get me the hell out of here. Like, seriously, get me out of here. And that'll be the end of it. But as long as if he's comfortable being there and he's okay with not competing in the postseason, by all means, I will say this, though, Don, he's got to be feeling better this year, given the fact that he's swiping bases now left and right. He's got 5 steals on the year. He's had 4 over the last 4 seasons. So I don't see him stealing bases and doing these kinds of things if he's not 100%. And I think that's a scary proposition for some teams, because I do think he can make the team around him of these young guys a little bit better and maybe a little bit more dangerous if he can stay healthy.
Yeah, that's always the key here. And also, the reason probably doesn't have many stolen bases, every time he slides into a base, he breaks his hand, he breaks his wrist, he hurts something.
Yes,
They're like, hey, man, stop stealing bases. We need to keep you in the lineup. It's certainly something to monitor on Mike Trout the rest of the way. Another game played last night on the West Coast. I lost my best bet of the day here. And sometimes handicaps go against you here. The San Francisco Giants 5, the Arizona Diamondbacks nothing. Didn't have a side or a total in this game, but I did have an RBI prop on Michael Conforto in this game. The reason I like that was you take a look at the starting pitcher here for the Diamondbacks, who isn't very good. That's Nelson. He only goes 2 innings in this game because he got hit with a baseball and exited, which blew up my, hey, Michael Conforto as a left-handed batter should crush Nelson as a right-handed pitcher. Lefty pitchers come in the game, and up in flames they go. But the Giants win, improve to 4-3 at home, 9-11 on the season, and also the Diamondbacks, same division, Joe, 9-11 as well.
Yeah, and I had the Arizona first 5 getting a half a run last night because, Webb has not been the Webb of the last couple of seasons. He's not missing a lot of barrels, and sure enough, Arizona gets, first and third, nobody out in the top of the first, and doesn't get a run across, and San Francisco wins the first 5, 1-0. So, yeah, and Nelson took a big one off the elbow there, but he had been pitching halfway decently to that particular point. So that was a rough one for Arizona, but they got 3 more games coming up here in the series.
That is always a tough one, too, when you look at it. Like, if I could give you the box score before the game and said, Joe, you're going to get your half of a run, I'm going to tell you, San Francisco's only scoring 1 time in the first 5 innings. You go, sign me up all day long. I need 1 run over the first 5 innings against a pitcher that I think we can scrape 1 run together against. You win that? Nope. It ends up 1-0 at the end of 5. Tough scenes all the way around from handicapping there. Let's get to the NBA. What a weekend on deck, people. Don't miss out any longer. We'll be right back on the early line.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
It's when he swung it easy at 3/4 golf swings, and he pretty much hit his number all the time. Dude, but when he hit something full, he hit it 20 yards over the greens at times. He's like, what are you doing? He's just smiley, happy, and a freakish athlete golf robot that's going to be right there winning majors for the next 10-plus years. It's amazing. Did you say he was smiling or smiley?
Only on SportsGrid.
They're still the best. They're still the champs. Everyone wants to crown the Celtics the champions, but that's not the way it works. They got to beat them. And, they got to get through the East, which isn't going to be fun to begin with. Everyone thinks it's so automatic.
If it's just Boris is kind of losing his power, if whatever his tactics have been, yeah, move on.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
We talked about the Otani story. This interpreter, Ipe, clearly was a problem gambler. I mean, he would be identified as that and beyond. Now, there are a lot of others that are out there.
The timing didn't seem great. It seemed slightly tone deaf in terms of, maybe now isn't the time to say it. But the sentiment itself, you have to agree with. There's only so much a sports betting company can do, right?
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Oh, boy, what a weekend it's going to be here in the early line. We certainly have you covered. Donnie right side, Joe Ranieri. NBA action, yes, it is fantastic. A doubleheader tonight, which we will get to, but the series previews are up. We know exactly the seed lines, who's playing and where they are playing. And, Joe, I got to tell you, I've really enjoyed the past 2 weeks in the NBA. Every single night, it felt like every line outside of the Celtics was up for grabs. Teams winning one night, teams losing one night. You're going from the 2 seed to the 3 seed to the 4 seed and back up higher. How did you handle the final 2 weeks in anticipation of the NBA playoffs?
Oh, it very simply, I avoided it like the plague. Listen, the whole point of handicapping all of the NBA all season is because you're handicapping because you think you have an edge. The last 2 weeks of the NBA season, trying to figure out who's going to play, who's not going to play, what kind of effort are we going to get? It was just a little bit overwhelming. A lot of dog winners, a lot of opportunities for teams to kind of get it going. I know Houston was profitable down the stretch, again, with nothing to lose. But there was more question marks than we had definitive answers in the final 2 weeks. But the problem is, here we are with the playoffs, Donnie, and have you seen the list of injuries that we're dealing with here? Not the 6 men. We're talking about superstars here that unfortunately couldn't make it in the final 2 weeks of the regular season and may not make it now in the playoffs.
Yeah, let's set the table for the series here, starting with the Bucks and the Pacers, because there's a lot of intrigue all the way around. We know the Pacers. They love to get up and play with pace, no doubt about it. But in the NBA, we're taught to believe once you get to the playoffs, it's more of a half-court game here. The refs are going to swallow their whistles, and away you go. Let's just let the better team win and maybe the stronger team here. Let's set the table for this, because if we're looking at money line here, and this might be surprising to some people, the Pacers, minus 132. Milwaukee, plus 106 for the series. The spread line for the series, the Pacers, minus 1.5 games at minus 105. If you take Milwaukee getting a game and a half, it's minus 115. But wait a second. One team's higher seeded than the other. And if we're looking at when these games will finish, which means the order of the series, in 4 games, plus 350, in 5 games, plus 280, 6 games, plus 195, and 7 games at a plus 240 price. We have to let the people know, if you didn't already know, Giannis Antetokounmpo is down for the early part of the series. Now, Joe, what we don't know, does that mean game 1? Does that mean game 2? Does that mean if the Bucks win game 1, we could wait till game 3 or 4 to bring him back because of the urgency factor? What is your read on Giannis Antetokounmpo and that calf injury, and how it could impact this series?
Well, I think what it is, Donnie, more than anything else, is that it's a giant red flag on the Milwaukee Bucks, because you and I both know this didn't just happen. He's been dealing with this now for a while. And we all know that calf injuries do not go away. The only thing that truly helps it, Donnie, is rest. And we're talking significant rest, because the next injury after this, just ask Kevin Durant, ask Kawhi Leonard, the Achilles goes. And that's it. So you try to muscle through with this, and guess what? Then you end up losing them for possibly a year. So I would be shocked, especially if the Bucks can steal one early in the series. I think he gives it. I think they'll try to keep him on the sideline as long as possible. But if they go down 1-0, 2-0, he's going to try to come back, and I don't know that that's going to be a great call. So if I was betting this series, I would bet it with the fact that Giannis probably not showing up for this series.
Joe brings up a great point here, guys, and the reason being is, yes, you're worried about the calf, but you say, well, why would it affect anything else? If you've ever had an injury or watched injuries and how they happen in sports, If your calf is hurt, your body overcompensates here for that calf, which means, wait a second, he hurt his other calf. Now his left knee hurts. I thought it was his right knee at this point, or he hurt his left hamstring. Now, why is his right hamstring flaring up? Because your body will overcompensate. And the key part is that as well, Joe, is, and you're right about this, you bring him back and he tweaks that calf again, it's over. Even if you advance, he's probably not playing again in the playoffs here, and that's something to keep an eye on. Now, let's look at the team comparisons between these two, the Milwaukee Bucks and the Indiana Pacers. Almost identical records. You see the Milwaukee Bucks, 49-33. Points per game, 119. Points given up per game, 116. They'll give up some points, and the Pacers are known to be a great offensive team, 123 points per game and giving up 120 points. So we are expecting points, but also, you see that record for the Bucks, 49-33. And Joe, you might say to yourself, like, yeah, that's a solid record. Under Adrian Griffin, they might have the best record in the NBA and fought the Celtics all the way through. They hired Doc Rivers after firing Adrian Griffin, and everything goes in the toilet. Basically a 500 team with Giannis or without Giannis. Heading into the playoffs here, there's not a lot of people around going like, you know what, coaching advantage with Doc Rivers here in the Bucks.
Yeah, there's not. But the bigger problem here is that we've seen this throughout the season, right? And there's a few of these, Donnie, and I think this is at the top of the list where the matchup is horrific for Milwaukee. There could not have been a worse matchup for the Bucks than the Pacers, because Giannis is still looking for his basketball, by the way, after his, 64 points. If anybody's seen it, let him know. He's still a little bent that somebody took his basketball after playing the Pacers there. But he dominated the Pacers, 54 points, 64 points. I mean, he was a one-man wrecking machine. But you know what? That was all they had. That's all they had. And now without him, the Pacers ended up winning 4 or 5. Why? Because Milwaukee is no good anyplace else there. They don't have anybody compensating for the points. Lillard's not the same guy. Lopez has fallen off defensively, can't get a rebound against the smaller, more athletic guys on Indiana. And the Pacers have shown you can drop 60 on us. Enjoy it, Giannis. We're still better than you everywhere else around the court. This could not have been a worse matchup for Milwaukee. And now they don't have the guy they can count on to score the points. They've got a slowly falling off a cliff, Lillard, who is not the same kind of player and is not the kind of player that would take advantage of a poor Pacers defense.
Like, we just saw a play-in tournament game in Philadelphia. That was the Miami Heat and the Philadelphia 76ers. Yep. Nick Nurse is a very good and accomplished coach. Eric Spoelstra might be the best coach in the NBA. So what you saw in that game was, well, the Heat don't really score all that much. How can we level the playing field? Let's throw out a crazy zone out here that the Sixers are going to struggle with in the first half. Nick Nurse goes to the half, makes some changes here. Nick Batum comes in the third quarter. Boston three-point shots all over the place. Those are great coaching decisions that were made, like tic-tac-toe. Now we take a look at Doc Rivers, goes, okay, my best player is not going to play. I don't know when I'm getting back. How is he going to formulate a scheme against the Indiana Pacers that's going to beat them? The reason I bring that up is good coach, bad coach, new coach, Griffin and or Doc Rivers. Look at the games this season that these two have played. They played 5 times. The Pacers won 4 of those 5 games here. So technically, the Pacers already have the Bucks number, and the Bucks don't have their best player. And you're taking a look at some of those games that you pointed out. Giannis was fantastic. He's a great player. Top 3 in the NBA, no matter which way you shake it out. So I don't know what scheme, or let's just say, Joe, what do you think is going to happen with Doc Rivers and his scheme with no Giannis here? Is it just, hey, Dame, bail us out like you're in Portland, shoot 35 times. If you make your fair share, we'll be in this one.
What else? What other choice is it? He's not going to scheme up some great defensive scheme in order to stop him. I mean, and you're right, Donnie. The 5 games that we got to preview earlier this season, it got better for Indiana. It got worse, the makeup of this team, for the Milwaukee Bucks here. This is not a great defense by the Bucks. We know that. They allowed the 4th most 2-point attempts in the NBA this season. You've got an Indiana team who, by the way, even in those 4 games, Donnie, they didn't shoot well against the Milwaukee Bucks. But who's going to get in front of them? They can drive the lane all day long here, shoot it out, hit some threes, and they are going to dominate this series. Giannis is the great equalizer. But without Giannis, And even when he was in there dropping 50, 60 points again, they still didn't have enough pieces around him to get the job done. I don't think there's anything Doc Rivers can scheme that's going to slow down this Pacers team. The matchup doesn't work for the Bucks. It works even less if Giannis doesn't play.
Exactly. And also, we're expecting like Giannis is just going to parachute in as if he was completely 100% healthy and playing every night. You're talking about a guy that's going to be missing weeks of action. And also, as we know, maybe you're not so hesitant, or maybe you will be more hesitant on that calf than you normally would be, which would be tough all the way around. Let's take a look at game number 1, which is going to take place on Sunday night. Look at the line. FanDuel Sportsbook opened this game as a 3.5-point favorite to Milwaukee. News comes down that Giannis won't be available for the first part of the series. We know that's at least game number 1. That line quickly flips over as a favorite now to the Pacers, Joe, minus 1.5 in a total that opened up at 237.5. That's now down to 232.5. From your perspective, and looking at the FanDuel Sportsbook at some of the statistics, 55% of the tickets coming in on the Pacers here. Do you agree with that line move, and are the Pacers the right play in game number 1?
Yeah, I mean, I saw this open up as high as plus 250, and then, of course, the news on Giannis kept coming, and now it's, look at where it is now, Donnie. But the bottom line is it's still affordable enough, because if you think it still applies, right? The Pacers are going to win this series. And not only are they going to win this series, I would take them in a sweep. I would take them a 1.5, 2.5. I would just take them. I would escalate the whole thing and just take them to go, because without Giannis, this team is in trouble. And even with him, they still ain't winning the series. And I think that says a lot here about the state of the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, we saw Giannis go down with that calf injury. He's been out for quite some time already. But the NBA, look, if you didn't make the play-in, you got an extra week here before their games actually started up, going Sunday to Sunday. That helped out Giannis. And also, the first round of the NBA playoffs takes an extremely long amount of time. So if there's any shining light on the Bucks, is you're getting maximum recovery time just so Giannis can come back. And also, you're not going to play every other night. Those games are separated by at least 2 to 3 nights here to get that extra rest. We'll see how it plays out, but not a good sign when your best player is not healthy to start the playoffs. A guy that is healthy to start the playoffs, Joel Embiid. Bing bong, New York Knicks. What a series. We'll cover it next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
It's when he swung it easy at 3-quarter golf swings, and he pretty much hit his number all the time. Dude, but when he hits something full, he hit it 20 yards over the greens at times. He's like, what are you doing? He's just smiley, happy, and a freakish athlete golf robot that's going to be right there winning majors for the next 10-plus years. It's amazing. Did you say he was smiling or smiley?
Only on SportsGrid.
They're still the best. They're still the champs. Everyone wants to crown the Celtics the champions, but that's not the way it works. They got to beat them. And, they got to get through the East, which isn't going to be fun to begin with. Everyone thinks it's so automatic.
If it's just Boris is kind of losing his power, if whatever his tactics have been, yeah, move on.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Talked about the Otani story. This interpreter, Ipe, clearly was a problem gambler. I mean, he would be identified as that and beyond. Now, there are a lot of others that are out there.
The timing didn't seem great. It seemed slightly tone deaf in terms of, maybe now isn't the time to say it. But the sentiment itself, you have to agree with. There's only so much a sports betting company can do, right?
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Setting up this weekend's action here in the NBA playoffs right here on the Early Line Series XM Channel 159. Joe Ranieri, Donnie right side. Fun all the way around. Intrigue all the way through. We had some fun just talking about the Pacers and the Bucks. How about this series? The New York Knicks as the 2 seed, who all season long we're like, okay, maybe we'll be the 5th, maybe we'll be the 6th, maybe we'll drop out with so many injuries. Jalen Brunson has been absolutely spectacular this entire season. So now the number 2 seeded Knicks are going to take on the Philadelphia 76ers as the 7th seed. How did the Sixers get to the 7th seed? Well, they had the play-in series tournament here against the Miami Heat. Beat them, advance. The Heat will play a little bit later tonight, and we'll talk about that later in the show. But let's focus on this series here and how we got there. Before we get into the lines itself, Joe, I was so impressed by Tibbs' team down the stretch because you saw other teams get injured. A la the Philadelphia 76ers. Lost Maxey for a couple games, but lost Joel Embiid for the better parts of a month. They were treading water. They weren't doing anything. They were dropping seed lines here. If the Sixers were healthy, they would have probably been the 2 seed. The Knicks weren't healthy, but they did get the 2 seed. I love that for the New York Knicks, man. That is a resilient team.
Very resilient. And, don't forget when the look-aheads and when this first came out, Donnie, right, there was a lot of people screaming and yelling going, why are the Knicks a dog in this series? Like, what is going on? And then, sure enough, the line has flipped, and now the Knicks are finally getting, and they deserve this kind of respect as well here. Throw the seeds out. Doesn't make a difference here. The Knicks all year long, to your point, we're one of the better defensive teams, right? Thibs' teams are always known for their defense. They finished 10th in defensive efficiency this year. But the thing that nobody talks about with the Knicks because of that image with Thibs is that this was a very, very good offensive team here. Why? Because of Jalen Brunson. That's why. And he is ultimately going to be the guy, I think, here that decides whether or not they win this series and they can advance here. This is a team defensively that is going to give Philadelphia all sorts of issues. And Embiid is a one-man wrecking machine. But do we think he's good enough to run over this New York Knicks team? I don't think so. I think the right team is favored. We saw a ton of steam come in yesterday. A lot of money on the New York Knicks series came in yesterday, pushing this thing closer to the New York Knicks here at minus money. But the reality is Philadelphia certainly has an elite lineup, but do they have enough? And are you convinced that Embiid's 100%? Because I'm not. There could be an argument made. Jimmy Butler doesn't get hurt. They're playing the Bulls here tonight, and they are not set up to play the Knicks here. So I agree with the market move. The Knicks should be the favorite. They should be the ones that win this series.
Yeah, and as a Sixer fan watching that Miami Heat game halfway through the first half, oh, look at that. The Heat are on the way to the NBA Finals, and the Sixers are going to get bounced in round number 1 to the Boston Celtics. Boy, things changed in that second half. But that leads up to the Sixers, who technically are the hottest team in the NBA with a win streak heading in from the regular season right through to the play-in tournament and now going to face the New York Knicks. If we're lining up this series, and again, as Joe pointed out, it's the 2-seed Knicks, the 7-seeded Sixers. It's supposed to be a heavy favorite for the 2 seed, but as we're seeing right now, the money line price on the series, the New York Knicks, -110. Philadelphia 76ers, -110. Spread in the series, the Sixers, -1.5 games at +142. If you want to take the Knicks getting a game and a half, that's -176. And talking about when you think this series will end, in 4 games, +490, in 5 games, +240. The favorite here, +190 in 6 games, and then 7 games at a +220 price. So we're not going to hear like, oh, the Sixers win. What a massive upset it actually is. But Joe brings up some good points here. Yes, Embiid is back and the Sixers are playing well, but still it's always a problem. Joel Embiid gets injured out of nowhere typically in the playoffs, whether it be his stomach hurts, his knee flares up, or even getting his face fractured late in the game where he probably shouldn't even been in the game. You're hoping that Joel Embiid's injury history, which cost him about a month and a half of the season and an MVP race with that knee injury, whereas that bulky brace, we'll find out where it comes back. But if we look at the comparison between the two teams, the Knicks 50-32 on the season, the Sixers 47-35. Now, quite frankly, both of those records aren't as good probably of what those teams could have actually been, Joe. If you said the Knicks didn't lose Julius Randle for the rest of the way or OG Anunoby for like 2 months at a time, the Philadelphia 76ers don't lose Joel Embiid, you might be looking at the number 2 and the number 3 seed with much, much better records here. So how these teams match up, the Knicks got the better of the Philadelphia 76ers in the regular season. If you just look at that alone, is it advantage Knicks knowing that, yes, Embiid in, Embiid out, we still handled our business, and looking forward, we should be fine in this round?
Well, and I think the other part of it, again, defensively, both of these teams can go get you, right? They can make life extremely miserable for you. But ultimately, I do think that it's the Knicks and their three-point shooters that are going to be, over the course of a series, maybe the difference maker, right? So when you're looking at McBride, DiVincenzo, Jalen Brunson, they're all 40% three-point shooters. Even Anunoby shot, 39.5% from three. Who would have saw that coming here? The Knicks' ability to shoot the three will open up other things for him. It has all year, and Jalen Brunson is the perfect kind of player to be able to take advantage of Embiid, who may not be 100% because of his mid-range game. He can absolutely make things happen here. But Philadelphia is elite when Embiid is on the court, and they may very well be good enough when he's off the court here, Donnie, because it's not like Maxey and Tobias Harris and Melton. It's not like these guys have not been great all year, too. I think it's going to be a fantastic series, and it's one that, would you be shocked if it went 7? Because it wouldn't shock me.
No, it'd be great basketball. These two teams haven't played in a long time in the playoffs. It's a great rivalry here. The Garden deserves great basketball, and they're going to get it. The same thing in Philadelphia. You're going to have rival fans in rival buildings here. You know how that's going to get, and right off the bat, we love to see it. If we are looking at those 4 games that the Sixers and the Knicks played this year, only one of those games, Joe, where Joel Embiid actually played in, and the Knicks won easily, 128-92. And if you also remember that March 10th game, 79-73, as it was a high school basketball game. Nobody could score, but the Sixers won. 2 days later, same building, the Knicks returned the favor with a 106-79 game. Now, granted, a lot of things are changing. Players are coming back healthy, and so be it, which includes Joel Embiid, who did miss roughly a month and a half. Thought process may have been he might not even come back, but comes back a few games short of the playoffs. And he's been great coming back, though. 6 games played here, Joe, 29.2 points per game, 10 rebounds, field goal percentage 47.5. And you know, JoJo likes to get to the free throw line. So Embiid moving forward, let me ask you this question like we did with Giannis. Embiid's supposed to be there for all 7 games if needed here. Is there a chance that we see Joel Embiid game 1 or game 2 like we've seen in the past? Hobbling up the court, and then we get those, which the NBA loves. Game 3, everybody's playing. Oh, wait a second. News breaking, Woj bomb. Joel Embiid's going to miss game 3 of the NBA playoffs against the Knicks.
Well, listen, the Sixers, yes, they love to have Embiid here, but they certainly stayed afloat without him in order to be able to put themselves in this spot, right? I mean, defensively, they are very, very good with the guys they have. Sans Embiid. Embiid's biggest contribution is offensively, right? Because if Hartenstein and Mitchell Robinson have no answer for Embiid, Philadelphia wins this series. I mean, that's really what this is going to come down to. It's not Embiid's defense that they're going to miss. It's going to be the fact that nobody can really stop Embiid when he wants to score. They have 2 guys that are going to be tasked with stopping him. If they don't, Embiid's on the court, Philadelphia could very well win this game. Without him, well, then you've got a different group of guys for the Knicks that are going to be responsible for taking them over this hump. And it's not Hartenstein or Robinson. It's going to have to be the guys like Maxey and Tobias Harris and Batum. These guys are going to have to play out of their mind. But you know what? They did for most of the season. So on or off the court, it's still a 7-game series to me.
Nick Batum, 6 3-point shots made already in this play, or early in the playoffs here with that play-in tournament. We'll see if he can knock down some 3-point shots. Maybe the New York Knicks go zone. Tibbs, known for his defensive strategies nonetheless. But let's take a look at game number 1, which will take place tomorrow, 6 p.m. up in the Garden, the world's most famous arena, Sixers and the Knicks. This line opened up at the FanDuel Sportsbook at -3. You know where it sits today? Live, -3 here. A couple movements here from 2.5 to 3s, as you'll find out. Total in this game opened up 206.5. The live line today at 209. So taking a look at the Philadelphia 76ers as underdogs in game number 1, how do we think this plays out? Because the one thing we do know, Madison Square Garden is going to be rocking here. We're looking for a close series, probably going 6 to 7 games. And it's so key, particularly for the road team, to steal one of those first 2 games in the opponent's building. My question to you here, Joe, can the New York Knicks win both games at home, or do the Sixers possibly get game number 1 and put that home court advantage in their back pocket?
No, I think home court advantage is huge. Well, it's always huge in the NBA playoffs, but I think it's really big for the Knicks in this series here. I do think that this is going to be who flinches first, right? Whoever wins a game on the road, I think, is most likely the winner of this series. And don't forget how good, I mean, the Knicks were great, right? But the Knicks were not only the number 2 seed here, but they were also the 6th best cover team in the league this year here, Donnie. They went 44-36-2 against the number, over 55%. This is a team that, especially at home, as a favorite, handled their business here. I think they will. I think this game will be decided like most games should be in game 5. That's going to be the situation for me. I do think up until that point, everybody holds serve until they make the second go at it. And I think game 5 will determine who wins this.
Because it's, as it turns out here, and it was certainly rightfully so, nobody wanted to face the Boston Celtics. And again, the New York Knicks are a very good and quality squad here. Nobody's doubting that. But it almost felt like, oh boy, the Knicks are waiting in the 2 seed. They probably should have lost to the Bulls in the final game of the season to try to avoid this, because you were going to get the Jimmy Butler Miami Heat, which it turns out Jimmy Butler's probably not going to play for the rest of the playoffs here, and or the Philadelphia 76ers with a healthy Joel Embiid. If we take a look at the FanDuel Sportsbook, you see where the money is going here. 53% of the tickets actually coming in on the New York Knicks. But how about this? 72% of the total money also coming in on the New York Knicks. So slightly as a public favorite here, but an overwhelming amount of money on the Knicks, which is interesting and key, because we were led to believe that, oh, look at this. The Sixers is the 2 seed, or as the 7 seed. They're really the 2 seed playing in this spot. They should win this series, but that's not where the general public's going with their betting and also their funds here.
No, they are not. And we saw a lot of that come in yesterday, and I do think that we'll see more of it here. If the Knicks win this first game, it's going to move quickly towards the other side. And like you said, I think a lot of bettors are sitting and going, is Embiid really 100%? And I want to see him go against a defensive team like this on the road at the Garden. Let me see game 1 before I jump in. I think there's a lot of money sitting on the sidelines because of Embiid. And if somehow they're able to pull this one out, oh boy, that's going to make this series very interesting.
Quadruple header on Saturday. Game started at 1 o'clock here. The game we were just talking about here and the series, the Sixers and the Knicks. That game is going to tip off at 6 p.m. in the Garden. 2 concepts also coming in, which sometimes come into play. The Knicks haven't played for a week. Last time we saw them in an overtime victory against the Chicago Bulls to clinch that number 2 seed. But also from a Sixers perspective, which I like to look at in the NCAA tournament, maybe a slingshot effect here where they are already in playoff mode here with a playoff victory, and now we're showing up into the Garden saying our playoff mindset is already here. Let's see what you got. But the Garden, as I said, will absolutely be rocking. Cannot wait for this game to tip off. Let's talk a little NHL to end out hour number 1 right here on the SportsGrid Network.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
It's when he swung it easy at three-quarter golf swings, and he pretty much hit his number all the time. Dude, but when he hit something full, he hit it 20 yards over the greens at times. He's like, what are you doing?
He's just smiley, happy, and a freakish athlete golf robot that's going to be right there winning majors for the next 10-plus years. It's amazing.
Did you say he was smiling or smiley?
Only on SportsGrid.
They're still the best. They're still the champs. Everyone wants to crown the Celtics the champions, but that's not the way it works. They got to beat them. And, they got to get through the East, which isn't going to be fun to begin with. Everyone thinks it's so automatic.
If it's just Boris is kind of losing his power, if whatever his tactics have been, yeah, move on.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Talked about the Otani story. This interpreter, Ipe, clearly was a problem gambler. I mean, he would be identified as that and beyond. Now, there are a lot of others that are out there.
The timing didn't seem great. It seemed slightly tone deaf in terms of, maybe now isn't the time to say it. But the sentiment itself, you have to agree with. There's only so much a sports betting company can do, right?
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
this
late
sort
night.
of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Hour number one already down. Are you having fun? Absolutely here. We cover every single topic you need to know on the SportsGrid Network right here on the early line. It's Joe, it's Donnie having some fun. And away we go. Where? To the NHL. The bracket is set. Oh, my goodness. And away we go for Lord Stanley's Cup. Intrigue all across the board. But I know Joe knows this. You want to talk about betting underdogs. Typically, hockey is the place you want to bet them in round number one. Oh, you're a number one seed, you have the best record in hockey? So be it. You might get swept out of here or losing in 5 games. We've seen it repeatedly here. So I want to hear this from you, Joe. Betting the Stanley Cup playoffs, different than the NBA, different than Major League Baseball, different than the NFL. How do you handle this and the excitement level on your side for the playoffs beginning?
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting this year, Donnie, because there's always something very exciting about the NHL playoffs, right? The Stanley Cup, the chase for the cup that it is for the NBA, right? The NBA usually early on may be a little chalky. I think in the NHL, it's anybody's ball game, and I'll tell you why. Because and whether you believe in curses or not, the idea that the best team all year long could get bounced out in the first round like we have seen Toronto, like we have seen Boston, like we have seen the Panthers over the last couple of years, it makes it extremely intriguing for the bettors, Donnie.
Yeah, take a look at that bracket all the way through, and it's a long time, man. These guys battle, and you want to talk about the lower body injuries, the upper body injuries. They will be hiding those injuries left and right. I always get a kick out of this. When a team gets eliminated, like let's just say there's 30 players on the roster, it's 22 of them are getting surgery for things you never even knew hurt them here. Hockey players, certainly tough, but how about this also? The state of Florida, maybe a little civil war down there. Tampa Bay versus Florida lining up for supremacy of that state. It's good stuff all the way around. Now, I do digress and say this. I would love to participate in this. I would love to have fun. Throughout my childhood, Joe Ranieri, I watched the Flyers repeatedly make the playoffs. And now 3 straight years, my Philadelphia Flyers have not made the playoffs. I don't even know what playoff hockey is here in a hockey hotbed of Philadelphia. Tough times all the way around. Let's get back to the NBA. Hour number 2 is just right around the corner. We'll be right back.